Hey all, it's Ahmed here from Recruitable University and on today's recruitment program. So we are almost finished on the recruitment course and we are on the last module, which is the business operation side of things. So this is probably the most interesting part of the course. This part here is like literally the last piece of the puzzle. So now we've established how to start a recruitment agency, how to pick a niche, and what different types of contractors there are. This is literally the last piece of the puzzle where you are now managing the operation side of things, how to have a remote team, how to outsource staff, the back end of things. So this module will consist of 5 lessons. The first one being payroll. The importance of payroll is literally the backbone of the company, and the different tasks that will arise in the payroll department. And we'll go through the back office of the company, the admin side of things. We'll go through policies and procedures. We'll go through outsourcing a team and then also how to manage that team. So if we get right into it, we'll start with the first lesson, which is payroll. So on payroll, we've got invoicing clients. This is one of the first things that you will find that you need to do. So once your contractors are working for you, and they will submit something called a timesheet. So that will go through what timesheets are just in the next slide or so. So just to give you a sample of what an invoice would look like.
Hey, Ahmed here. I hope you're finding value in this video. If you need any free advice or help with your recruitment agency, or you're thinking of starting your own agency but have some questions, feel free to join our weekly Q&A. You may have seen some clips from it on my page. I'll post a link in my Telegram community, which is completely free to join. I don't even need your email or phone number, and I'll personally be there to answer any of your questions. The link is down below for those of you who are interested. Now let's get back to the video.
So I've got an invoice over here, ABC Recruitment Invoice. So an invoice will look something similar to this, where your contractors, whether they are working for you on a temporary basis or on a salaried basis, you'll send your client an invoice. This invoice will just show them that any work that they've carried out, or use your services, and when the monies are due, and to which bank the payments are made to. So if you look at this invoice over here, you've got at the top the invoice number. And if you're a startup recruitment agency, I would just recommend, just so it looks better for you as well, not to start with 001. That will just show that you're freshly sort of new into the industry, and it may give some clients a indication that you may not have the knowledge or the experience that they are looking for. So if you are starting from fresh, best thing is to put a number before 001. So even if you put like 2001, it looks like it's your 2001st invoice. It's just first impressions are sometimes important to clients. And then after that, you've got invoice date, invoice due date. So if your payment terms are 30 days, then you'll just write 27th of June, for example, and 30 days thereafter would be the 25th of July. And then you've got the payment terms, where you just state the amount of days they've got to pay that invoice to. And then you've got the PO reference. So PO reference is, sometimes you will find that some of your clients, when you work with them, they'll say to you, these are our PO numbers. Can you please state the PO numbers into the invoice? So it just gives you a little tab where you can put the client's PO number and any sort of account reference that you have. And then if we move over to the details, you've got Dr. Joe Bloggs, for example. He worked 5 hours. His hourly rate is £118 an hour, or that is the amount that you'll be charging your client, £118. So 5 times 118 is £590. And then you've got the VAT. If you're VAT registered, or if you're in a VAT registered country, then you add 20%. So £23.60, and that is the total 613.60. On the left-hand side, you'll find a column where you'll have the name, the bank, sort code, and account number. It's very important, obviously, you put your bank details in for your clients to pay you into. So this is what a invoice typically looks like, and you'll send to your client hopefully on a daily basis, which indicates obviously that you're doing quite well and you're busy. So this is the first thing when it comes to payroll, that you are invoicing your clients and you are sending over invoices to your clients. and according to the work that were carried out by your contractors. Now, how do we know when your contractors have carried out work? So presuming that now you are doing temp recruitment, it will move you over to the next slide, which is contractor's timesheet. What is a contractor's timesheet? So a timesheet looks something similar to this over here. So over here, we've got ABC recruitment timesheet. So over here, we've got Dr. Joe Blogs, for example. He did a shift at Amazon. So he did a shift at Amazon. So you've got client name Amazon, first name Joe, surname Blogs. So once he has done his shift, and this is again assuming that he's working on a temporary contracting basis, he'll input the hours. So he worked on the 26th, 9 till 5. He did an hour lunch, so a total hours of 7 hours. What he will do is he will submit these timesheets over to you, but before he submits them, ensure that these timesheets are signed. It's very important because this is a basically at the bottom over here, you've got an authorization signatory name. So once you get a signature by the client, you can actually release payment to your candidate because your client has authorized that these hours are worked. Sometimes that you may find is contractors, they will incorrectly put hours that aren't correct, sometimes by mistake, or what they do is they make an error and put the wrong dates, for example. And if you don't double check with your clients, and so if the timesheet is not signed, I would highly recommend that you email your clients and just confirm that these hours that are stated on the timesheets are correct before you make any payments to your candidates. And if the timesheet is signed, then you obviously you've covered your back and they've put a signature authorizing the timesheet, so you can make full payment to your candidate. So this is typically what a timesheet looks like. And this is basically just to let you know how many hours that they've clocked in, how many hours that they've worked this week, and they'll submit them to their timesheet to yourself, and then your payroll department or yourself, if you're just a startup solo entrepreneur, and you will just ping this over to your clients. If it's not signed, they will confirm. And once it's signed, you can make a payment to your candidate. So that will move us over to the next slide. So once you've received a timesheet from your candidate, you will send your candidate something called a remittance email. So a remittance email can be simple. It can literally just be an email to your client, just something that looks like this, just to say, "Hi, Joe Blogs. This is just a courtesy email to inform you we have paid you for the work you have carried out with us." Client name, Amazon, as we said. So amount, for example, £800. So assuming that his hourly rate was £80 an hour, and 10 hours at £80 is an amount of £800. And then just something at the bottom saying, "Many thanks for working with ABC Recruitment. We appreciate your business." And so this is what a remittance looks like. It can be something simple. You send them your client an email, your candidate email, just appreciating their business, informing them that payment has been made to them. And this is just so they can also keep a reference or keep on top of things, knowing that a payment has been made to them. And so this is generally how you send your remittances. Again, it doesn't have to be in this manner. Some people will prefer sending PDFs. You can send a document attachment, or it can be just as simple as just an email, just saying in the subject as well, just saying ABC Recruitment Remittance. So this is just showing that the work that they've carried out, and also a notification that a payment has been made to them. So that is that really. So that is the candidate's payment remittance out of the way. So that will move us over to umbrella companies, because I know a lot of the questions that some people ask is, how do we pay the contractors? Do we pay them directly to their bank account? Do they have to have a limited company? Are they self-employed? Or can we pay them PAYE, pay as you earn? So the answer is fairly straightforward. If your candidate has a limited company, then you can pay them directly into their limited company. If they are self-employed and they have a UTR number, for example, you can pay them into their self-employed bank account. If they do not have a limited company and they are not self-employed, and they ask you that they want payment to be made directly to them and with their pay slips, etc. The best suggestion form I would recommend is an umbrella company. And if you want to know sort of what an umbrella company is or how do umbrella companies operate, this is just a simple chart in front of you. So an umbrella company is basically once your contractor he will submit his hours to the umbrella company. So so there's two options really. So you will find your contractor work. So in this case, Joe Blogs. So we found Joe Blogs shifts at Amazon. Joe Blogs done those shifts at Amazon. He completed his timesheet. He submitted a timesheet of how many hours did we say? We said 14 hours. So he submitted a timesheet of 14 hours. Those 14 hours he would like to be paid PAYE. So he would like the national insurance and the taxes deducted automatically from his pay. And so he doesn't want to deal with any sort of self-employment side of things. He just wants to be paid his hourly rate minus all his taxes. So instead of the candidate being paid and being on your books, you can instruct a umbrella company to operate, sort of be the middleman between yourself and your contractor. Why is important, or why do sort of companies prefer doing this? One is it cuts you a lot of costs in terms of having to pay for their national employers and NI. So sometimes it can be a little bit technical having hundreds of contractors on your book. So an umbrella company, what they will do is they will take care of the national insurance, the social benefits, the taxes, and they will just charge you a small amount. Sometimes it can be £2.50 to £3 for every timesheet that you submit to them. That £3 will save you a lot of headache, and it saves you a lot of legislations that you have to be careful of, which we'll go through when we get to the policy side of things. So an umbrella company, it's a third-party payroll company who will do all your payments for you if you if you instruct them to do so. So this is something that a lot of companies are using, and a lot of, I would say, candidates who aren't paid that well. So if if you're working with doctors, if you're working with like web developers, if you're working with software engineers, more than likely they will have their own limited companies, which then you can pay directly into their company, and you will not have a need for an umbrella company. But if you're looking at sort of lower end side of things, if you're looking at laborers, if you're doing cleaners, if you're doing potentially healthcare assistants, if you're doing receptionists, administrators, lower earners, they generally they won't tend to have a limited company. They would like to be, most of them would like to be paid directly into their account, have all the taxes and the NI and the social benefits already deducted. So an umbrella company would be your best bet and your best place to go. There's so many umbrella companies that you can look at, and you can just go and Google and find sort of what umbrella company works with you. You can schedule a meeting with them. Majority of them, to be honest, if you're a recruitment company, they will come out to you, drop off some merch, some stationery, and try to win your business, because of course they are making money from every timesheet that you submit to them. They make a couple of pounds. So for example, if you pay your candidate £100, you'll probably pay the umbrella company 103 or £104. They will pay the 100 directly to your candidate, and they will charge you £2-3 for processing those timesheets and processing the payments to your candidates. And so that's that when it comes to the umbrella company side of things on payroll. And then you've got finance factoring. So finance factoring is basically once you invoice. So let's say, for example, your Dr. Joe Blogs done a shift, and we've paid him £550, and we invoiced the client £613.60. So from that shift, or from these shifts that Joe Blogs has worked, you've profited £113.60. Now, of course, it's going to be very expensive. Now, this is again presuming now you're doing contracting recruitment, temp recruitment. It's going to be very expensive when it comes to paying all of your candidates. Let's just say you've got 5, 10, 15, 20 candidates working for you on a daily basis, or even on a weekly basis. You're going to have to fork out that payment up front yourself, and then and wait as we said over here, generally speaking, this payment terms are about sort of 14 to 30 days. So you will pay your candidate at the end of their shift or at the end of that week, and you will wait a period of between 14 to 30 days before your client will pay you. So what in that case, if the amount or the if the amount of contractors increase, which of course is a good thing, but the payment will also increase that you will have to make on a weekly basis to all of your contractors. And if you can't keep up with this with the demand, there's something called a finance factoring company. So what they do, finance factoring company, it's fairly straightforward. So you will send an invoice to your customer. So an invoice can look like this. So once we send this invoice to our customers of £613 and 60 pence, then what you will do is you will submit the same invoice to the factoring company. So assuming that you've of course have an agreement with a factoring company, there's hundreds out there, and there is a couple that I can recommend, and I will do so at the end of the video. Assuming that you've already got a preferred and chosen factoring company in place, what you will do is you'll submit the same invoice to the factoring company. The factoring company will then release a payment there and then. So generally, they will release a payment the same day. And so they'll give you access to a back-end portal, and you will submit your invoices to the factoring company, and they will pay between 80 to 90%. It depends on really what you negotiate. I would recommend that you negotiate 90% of the invoices, so that they will pay 90% of the invoices. So let's just say, for example, for easy maths, you've had an invoice of £1,000. So you submitted an invoice to your client to pay you £1,000, and they will pay you after 30 days. Of course, you need to pay your contractors by the end of the week. So what you'll do is you use a factoring company, you'll submit your timesheet to that factoring company. The factoring company will then release 90% of that invoice. So that invoice value was £1,000. They will give you £900. That £900 will cover you to pay your candidate, let's just say, £800, and £200 was profit. So of that £900, you pay your candidate £800, and the £100 is your profit that you made. So once your customer pays you, so now we are on step 4. Once your customer pays you the full amount, then the factoring company will release the other 10% that they held back. Generally speaking, once you are in agreement with once you get into an agreement with a factoring company, the bank details that you will place into the invoice will be their bank details. So it will say, for example, factoring company, their bank, their sort code, and their account number. So all payments will go to your factoring company. They will actually give you your own pot where you can see your own account, how much money is going into your account from all of your customers. So once the payment is made to you by your customers into your factoring company account that they've given you, the factoring company will then send you the remainder of the invoice value to you minus their factoring fees. So for example, we said £1,000 you submitted, and they will then give you £900, which is 90% of the invoice value. And after that, your customer pays you into your factoring company account that they've allocated for yourself. Then they will pay you the difference of £100 minus a factoring fee, depending, of course, what you agree with your at the beginning of the agreement with the factoring company. So that is pretty much how a factoring company works. And this is more once you sort of expand and you've got a pool of candidates who are working for you on a daily basis, where it doesn't become viable, or of course when it even if it is viable, but you want more of a cash flow where you don't want to tie a lot of your money in and paying for your contractors, then you can have a factoring company who will do most of the payments for you, and they will only hold 10% of your invoice until the payments are made in full. So this is pretty much how the finance factoring work, and that is pretty much the payroll side of things. I hope you've understood and benefited, and I will see you on the next one.